Hey everyone, you're watching The Esperanza 243. Um, I am presenting Long Live Menavia Part 32, the last video of the book. Very exciting. Very exciting. But also sad, because this is the last of the book I'll be reading to you. But at the same time, I'm kind of relieved, because I've been reading this book to you guys for, I don't know how long, all year, I believe. Yeah, I'd say it's been almost a year. Holy cow. Anyways, I do want to talk about one thing before I get to the reading. Or actually a couple of things. My grandma is moving tomorrow, or is moving on this will be uploaded on Tuesday, so my grandma moved this past Saturday. My whole family helped her out. But she had to get rid of a lot of stuff though, because the place she's moving to, her apartment, it's more like an apartment. It's not an apartment. It's more like a hotel room. It's much smaller than mine. But, her bathroom is like half the size of mine. And her kitchen is kind of like mine. Just, counters and a sink. And plus refrigerator, I assume. I don't know. I'd have to see her new place. Who knows, though? I'm excited because where she's moving to is actually not far from my work. So if I extend my stay after my shift, I could go to her place and hang out. Of course, I would have to bring an extra shirt with me. That's what I was trying to say. I already know what book I will be reading after this project, and the first video for that, it's going to be, the first video of it is going to be an introduction, because in the book there's an introduction about it, and there is also kind of like a thing to fill out, or not fill out, but sheet to guess, with a little bit more of an explanation than the introduction, or not than the introduction, but just as informative as the introduction, I should say. I am not going to tell you the title of the book because I'm going to keep it a surprise. But I can tell you one thing, the book is written by Ellen Raskin, and she died in 89, I believe, or 84. All of a sudden, I can't remember. But I do know the book was published in 1978. So, let's go ahead and get to the book. Oh, heck yeah. In part 31, part 31 was a little short, considering it was just 2 pages. This video will be 3 pages, considering it's the end of the book. But part 31, Nicole and Fenshin, the current prince and princess, they talk to Caprice and Nicolau, Nicolau. They talk to their niece and nephew, and then the day after, Prince Nicole and Princess Fanchon are led by their niece and nephew to meet Mariona and Frederic. And that's actually where we are. Oh, no. Actually, no, it's not. They discuss, what would probably happen if Mediona and Frederic come out of hiding. And so Caprice tries to think of different ways of how they can come back. And then she ends up asking what her grandma was like. And that is where I am. I am curious. I have seen her portrait at Cassius's house quite a few times. She looks familiar. That is quite impossible, my dear. She died not too long after you were born, Mediona replied. Suddenly, Nicole bit his upper lip. Now that I know the rumor is true, I am curious as to when your children were born, Mediona. Nicole wondered. He gave her a look. Dear brother, I wish you visited more often before the riots. I do too. I tried many times, but there were guards everywhere. Whenever I walked to your room, a guard would ask if I had a meeting with you. That is my and Frederic's fault, she said. A relative of ours was trying to find ways to bring us down. If he knew I was with child, I am not certain what he would do. Suddenly, Nicole gasped. That reminds me, I never told you how I met Caprice. His sister became confused. I met her last night, Mariona. In fact, she saved my life. He looked at Caprice with a smile as Mariona's eyes widened. I still cannot believe that happened, Fanchon commented. How did it happen? Frederic asked. Nicolau smiled faintly. He and their aunt and uncle already heard the story. He was curious as to how his parents would react. Caprice, would you mind telling them what's happened? Nicole asked. I am certain I forgot parts of how it went. She chuckled. I do not mind. She told her story of what happened the previous night. She decided to exclude talking to Louisa. Caprice finished it with her and Cassius smiling like they made an inside joke. Mariona and Frederic were speechless. Nicole and Fanchon were smiling, though Nicolau became confused. Wait a minute, last night you told me something about talking to a woman. First of all, why did you tell me about her? Second of all, how is she involved in saving Uncle Nicole? What are you talking about? Nicole and Fanchon asked at the same time. What woman? Mariona and Frederic asked. Caprice blushed in embarrassment. She let the awkward silence linger a few more moments. Before I bumped into Nicolau at the party, there was this woman. She paused and looked around. Everyone was waiting. She became nervous. I've seen her before. Twice. The first time I met her was a few weeks after checking into a hotel. The second time I saw her was at Cassius's house, she said, trying not to make it too suspicious. She paused, but spoke up before someone could ask a question. Each time, she wears the same thing, but she is beautiful. She is a tall, elderly woman who wears a long and big cloak. The dark cloak is big enough to cover her dress. Do you know who she is? Frederic and Nicolau asked. They stared at each other briefly. Nicolau laughed nervously as his father chuckled. During my second encounter with her, I discovered who she was. Caprice was quiet after that. She became nervous to go on. Well, who was she? Her mother wondered. I am nervous to tell you. She paused. When I saw her at the party, she said it was stormy one night when she went to a party like that. She says she didn't want a party after the riots. It was quiet for a while. I am sure several people didn't want the party. Your father and I didn't go, Menavia told her. Caprice gave her a playful look. I know that now. If you did, I do not know where I would be right now, she said, wearing a soft smile. She played with her fingers. The thing is, the woman said she grew weak after the riots. She thought she would never, I don't know how to word this. Fanchon placed a hand on her hands. My dear, whatever it is, she said, I am certain it will hold an effect on all of us, her aunt told her. Caprice smiled and looked at her family. They were eager for her to continue. She sighed. The woman said, she thought she would never see her daughter again. She looked at each of her relatives. Everyone was confused. She placed a hand on my cheek and said, I am glad she survived long enough to have a child. It was dead silent for 2 seconds. Everyone save one became shocked. Mother? Menavia squeaked excitedly. Caprice nodded. Everyone gasped. I find it rather odd. Grandma seems to pop up whenever I feel lonely and think of you and Dad. It does not make sense. Louisa is dead, Nicole muttered. Menavia reached him and patted his arm. Nicole, it must be her spirit. She nodded with growing wide eyes. It is starting to make sense now. She looked at her daughter. She must have felt that way when she died. Perhaps that is what makes her appear. Whenever you feel lonely and think of us, it must attract her to come to you and appear. I hope she is with us now, Nicolau spoke up. He smiled at everyone. She would be proud that we are all here together. Everyone else grinned. This is cause for celebration, Frederic said. Should we have lemonade or champagne? He couldn't stop smiling. Let's have both, dear, Menavia told him. I do not want Nicolau and Caprice to start drinking just yet. They are 14. Her husband left to get drinks as Nicole raised his brows, almost horrified. Perhaps when I get back to the palace, I should increase the age of drinking. I cannot imagine all those children in Inra and all of Menavia drinking and doing crazy things. Fanchon and Caprice gasped. Meniona's eyes were wide. That is a horrible thought, Fanchon muttered. It was quiet for a while. Frederick came back with a tray carrying 4 glasses filled with the best champagne and 2 glasses filled with freshly made lemonade. "Don't tell me you spoke of nothing while I was gone," he asked. Almost everyone laughed. Mariona passed 2 glasses of champagne to her brother and sister-in-law, and then picked up a glass for herself as Frederic passed out the lemonade. "I have been thinking. I still do not know how all of you will be able to come back to the palace," Nicole spoke up. "Our people do have a right to know you are still alive and have children. What do we do?" "I tried thinking about it, but I cannot come up with a solution," Frederic told him. Mariona said the same thing. "We cannot stay hidden forever." "I have an idea," Caprice said. All eyes were on her. She sighed. "You do?" Fanchon asked. She nodded. "As far as anyone knows, Mom and Dad are dead. There is no way you could walk to the palace. People might recognize you." "It is hard to tell it is them at times," Nicolau said. She looked at him. "When I first saw their portraits at Bruno's house, I thought they looked familiar, but it took me 5 minutes to remember who Mom and Dad looked like." "We did try our best to change our looks over the years," Mariona said. "Still, it is risky for you and Dad to walk to the palace." Some of the others nodded. In that case, I was thinking Uncle Nicole could send a carriage here for you to visit him. There could be regular visits, once or twice a week. Then after a long period of time, you could reveal that you are not dead." Nicole starts to open his mouth. "Of course, Nicolau and I could visit often if you like, Uncle." He smiled. "I would like that very much, Caprice. I like your idea as well. It is well planned. How long ago did you come up with this?" "I thought of it sometime after you and Dad talked about the reason he and Mom hid. What do you think, Dad?" "Mom?" "I like it very much," Mariona said. Frederic agreed. They talked more about what days to come and when to send the carriage. The plan was settled then. A week after that, Mariona and Frederic were visiting their family at the palace. They had a wonderful time. Caprice and Nicolau came with them several times. 3 months had passed. Many back and forth traveling occurred, causing rumors to fly all over Menavia. Some people thought it was for security reasons. Others thought there was romance behind one of the royals' back, and other people thought there was something else mysterious going on. Prince Nicole and Princess Fanchon thought it would be wise to tell their people what was going on. Introducing the so-called dead prince and princess was the best thing to happen. There were few people who had furious outbursts. Those were taken away from the crowd to reason with fairly. Caprice and Nicolau were introduced as well. Everyone was excited and thrilled that the rumor of her resembling Princess Mariona had purpose. Prince Nicole and Princess Fanchon continued to rule, with the rest of the family by their side. Caprice continued her outfit business, despite the fact she didn't have to do so. Making outfits and dresses was a part of her soul, and she did not want to part from it. She missed her adopted parents a lot and prayed they were happy. Prince Nicole and Princess Fanchon looked over the property that the parents who adopted Nicolau had. The two discovered they had a small debt to the previous owner and decided to pay it for them. His adopted parents then owned their land and had become Baron and Baroness. Nicolau was happy to have found his birth parents and loved being with them. He felt he abandoned his adopted parents, though, so he visited them as often as he could. The end. Beautiful book, isn't it? I think I did a pretty good job. If you have any complaints or suggestions, please comment below. Bing, 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 bing. So, yes, the next video, it might actually be a karaoke, considering I haven't done one in a little while. I mean, considering the stuff I've already done. So, there might be a karaoke video. If not, it's going to be the next book reading project, which will be the introduction and a little bit of kind of like a check mark kind of thing. And also, I've already figured out what I'm going to do. I'm going to be reading this book that's written by Ellen Raskin, and then after that I'm going to read one of my own books, a shorter one if possible. And then after that I'm going to read a different book, like I did with Ellen Raskin, except it's not by her, it's by E.W. Hildick. If you can figure out which books those two particular books are, Ellen Raskin and E.W. Hildick, I challenge you to comment below. If not, that's fine. I mean, it's not like you have a life. Oh wait, you do. um, anyways, I believe that's it. I hope you enjoyed your time listening to this book. I had fun, certainly. I'm excited. I will let you guys know this is the Espronto 2 3 signing off.